Welcome to part 10 on subversive symbolism. We're going to look at geomancy and talismanic symbolism. Now, understanding some talismanic symbolism can help us to understand how symbolism works in architecture. And this is one of the more effective modes of symbolism because it is always in place. The building's always there, or the buildings. They have, in effect, simply by being there, the nature of the form and the resonant energy that that form outputs. Now, this concept is a little bit difficult to grasp, but still, it forms in and of itself an energy shape. The way something is built, the lines, the curves, these influence the subconscious mind. They build in people a subconscious, and these buildings affect people's subconscious mind, and that spills into the conscious mind and behaviour. The function of a building is often related to its form. The form of a building is often used or chosen for specific events. Building symbolism relates very deeply to occult traditions of many kinds. I wish to acknowledge Mark Passio for his podcast, What on Earth is Happening? Also, Jordan Maxwell, David Icke, and Michael Tessarian, who are experts on symbolism. They've all provided valuable information that has allowed me to put this presentation together. Let's quickly look at dove symbolism and how the dove is ritually sacrificed. The Columbia Space Shuttle disaster. Columbia was named after the goddess Columbia in the form of a dove. The shuttle looks a little bit like a white bird with its wings outstretched. And this was destroyed or immolated by burning up during re-entry. 7 individuals in the crew lost their lives during this human sacrifice ritual. There were 5 males and 2 females, symbolically 7 objects, and that can be seen with the naked eye from Earth: the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. These are the 7 gods of the ancient world of the astrotheological traditions. You can find 5 males representing the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter and Saturn, and 2 feminine representing Venus and the Moon. Now, this was made to look like an accidental burn-up in the atmosphere. It was the burning of the goddess Columbia, the white dove, and this is a clear example of human sacrifice symbolism related to the goddess. Now, repeatedly through this form of ritual, they have murdered or destroyed the goddess, therefore killing the sacred feminine. The light associated with the sacred feminine is symbolized by the illuminated torch, represented by the goddess principle. Another example of human sacrifice ritual is Hurricane Katrina. The Superdome of New Orleans is the shape of a human breast, and this is where the emergency management officials took people who lived in New Orleans. When Hurricane Katrina was striking, people were crammed into that building. FEMA didn't immediately attempt to help these people. They left them there for the better portion of a week, without supplies, without medication, without clean water or proper sanitation in this breast-shaped building. And this was an attempted human sacrifice because they didn't achieve the numbers dead that they wanted. Now, this sacrifice ritual was perpetrated upon a population that was largely African American and other minorities. The dark occultists are extraordinarily racist. They attack people of non-Nordic persuasion or non-white skin. Now, Hitler tried to purify the race by trying to remove Jews because he believed that the Aryan race, or those people of Nordic descent, were descended from a race of ancient superhumans, Uberman. Hitler believed that people of darker skin of any nationality needed to go away. They needed to be removed from the planet. Now, if you think that the Nazis lost World War II, then you're very naive. Germany may have lost the war, but the Nazis went underground. They continued their ideological agenda from a covert location. And this is why people who still hold Nazi beliefs are waging war on information, including extreme forms of racism. They are trying to perpetuate control over people by getting as many people as possible to be racist, to turn against each other in this divide and conquer strategy. People will become weaker because they will be fighting among themselves. Now, of course, rich people, or white folk, had the chance to leave New Orleans during the warnings that were given. However, the poor people without access to transportation were left in affected regions. They were left to fend for themselves. FEMA's job, as facilitators of emergency management, failed to evacuate or to save as many people. And they intended that. It was intended to be a sacrifice of as many people as possible. However, this attempted human sacrifice failed to deliver the numbers that the occultists wanted of lower class, ethnic minority, darker skinned people. They knew exactly what was coming, and they wanted as many people as possible to die or to be extremely weakened by what was to come. And the Superdome was a good place for that sacrifice objective. They knew that most disease would be bred in a confined location. They told people to gather quickly because when they knew resources would run out, they knew that getting fresh lines of supply would be exceedingly difficult and sanitary conditions would deteriorate very quickly. The shape of the Superdome, as mentioned, is a breast. Now, this is a sacred feminine symbol of nurturing, of motherhood and care. Yet the divine feminine is mocked in this ritual, in this attempted sacrifice ritual. Now, ritual sacrifices often occur on specific days of the week, days of the month, or periods during the year during the occult calendar. A significant date or month for repeated sacrifice is the 11th. The Madrid bombings occurred, and the earthquakes and tsunami and the nuclear disaster that happened in Japan, that all happened on the 11th. The 11th of March. And Tuesday, when a sacrifice occurs on Tuesday, that invokes the god of war, Mars. Tuesday is Martes, or Mars Day. Martes in Spanish. 9/11 was on a Tuesday. Friday, however, is the Norse goddess, a feminine day, Freya's Day, Friday, another invocation of the goddess. In French, Friday is Vendredi, Venus's Day, or another name for the goddess. So it's important enough to be conscious enough to understand the patterns and to be mindful enough to see and recognize it for what it is. Goddess symbolism is invoked during human sacrifice, human rituals, sacrifice rituals. Now, The killing of high school or college student symbolizes the destruction of innocence, the destruction of youth. At Bohemian Grove, rituals often involve burning an effigy of a child. And human sacrifices are frequently part of their ceremonies. Now, young people, they grapple with problems in life. They struggle with life's complexities and their place in the world. They're often confused and they're searching for understanding. Typically, such sacrifices are perpetuated by Manchurian candidates. Now, these are young people that are not well off, they're not well read or educated, they may be loners or isolated, they may already be struggling with emotional issues and problems in life. They are the primary candidates, the Manchurian candidates. The Columbine High School shootings. This is an example of a Manchurian candidate type sacrifice ritual. And also the shooting that occurred, the massacre that occurred at Virginia Technical Institute. Both these massacres happened on April 20th. Now, isn't that Adolf Hitler's birthday? Martin Luther King was also assassinated on this date. So the Columbine High School massacre was on Monday. That is Moon Day, associated with the goddess. Now this is when Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold assassinated 13 people. Now 13 represents the sun in the 12 houses of the zodiac. And this was invoked during this ritual. Or another way of looking at it is Jesus and the 12 disciples. Now that makes 13. These two boys were on psychotropic SSRI medications, and quite possibly they were Manchurian candidates. Monarch mind control. The Virginia Tech was also a form of Manchurian candidate mind control, where this individual carried out the massacre, killing 32 individuals. Then he turned the gun on himself, making himself the 33rd victim. 33 is a highly symbolic number in the occult. Now, be particularly vigilant for false flag events and potential human sacrifice rituals during the season of sacrifice. That's 44 days between March 19th and May the 1st. Dark occultists work with symbolic associations, and that's important to understand. Understand sacred symbolism to know how to defeat the enemy. To do this, you've got to know how the enemy's mind works. The Superdome, as we've said, was a semi-failed human sacrifice ritual. The elites failed to reach their quota of dead because help eventually got in with necessary supplies and people were evacuated to safety. And when you understand that dark occultists follow patterns, it's easy to recognize those patterns. They love April 20th because that's Hitler's birthday. The Gulf oil disaster also happened at this time. They attempted to devastate the Gulf region by drilling so deep that it cracked the Earth's crust. The bombing of Libya and Japan's tsunami and the subsequent nuclear disaster, that all happened in March 2011. 3/11. 11 is a ritual date representing chaos and opposition. So this concludes this section on subversive symbolism. In the next section we'll cover chaos sorcery.